Florida Governor Ron DeSantis held an event for donors and supporters this weekend just 4 miles from Mar-a-Lago. That included some longtime backers of former President Trump. That's according to the Washington Post. DeSantis spoke about election integrity and border security as supporters await an announcement on a potential 2024 bid. So Finn Gomez is standing by to dig a little deeper into all of this. We haven't really, a lot of people have been talking about DeSantis, but we haven't seen DeSantis talking about what his plan is. How significant is this move by DeSantis, and is it seen as a way to provoke Donald Trump?
I think it is significant, not only for that purpose, the sense of contrast between him and Donald Trump and this fight over these big donors. And I think it is significant, Anne-Marie, because it also shows, and it's an indicator that he could be preparing for this likely White House run. But it's really, and of course, the fact that they were just a few miles apart, from the Four Seasons, just like 4 miles away from Mar-a-Lago, and the fact of the matter is that some of these were big name former Trump's donors and supporters, and the fact that it's shifting over is showing that there is a real race for these donors, and DeSantis is appealing to these major GOP figures who formerly aligned themselves with Donald Trump, and it's not just donors. There was over 100 people who attended the DeSantis retreat. CBS News has confirmed, and it was also Senator Ron Johnson from Wisconsin, who was a big Trump supporter, and Senator Tom Cotton, amongst other Republican supporters who formerly backed, who have backed Donald Trump in the past. Trump himself has said previously that the shift of these donors who used to support him, who are sort of open to some other potential rivals, is a sense of disloyalty. So that is in itself a provocation of the former president. But it also shows that it's a different party than it was even last cycle, and these donors, Anne-Marie, are up for grabs.
All right, and let's talk about former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley, who has kept fundraising numbers quiet so far after her announcement that she's running for president. All eyes are on her home state as Senator Tim Scott may soon announce his bid. So, are there any concerns over fundraising efforts for Haley in that state?
Yeah, that's a good question, Vlad, because the Republican sources that I spoke to say there's not a real concern coming from within Haley's camp. She was seen as a formidable fundraiser in South Carolina. However, there is some concern that Scott, if he enters into the race, could complicate fundraising because the two have had similar donor bases within South Carolina, and some of those top donors are waiting to see whether Scott jumps into the race later this year, as is expected. But again, the real battle within the party right now on donors is between Trump and DeSantis. And is there enough for the rest of the field? I think that by Haley jumping in earlier, I think that brought her some attention, brought her some mobility within the party and attention from some of these donors. So it was actually a smart strategic move, I was told, by some of these Republican strategists that I spoke to. But again, it is currently right now in this early stage of the Republican race, it is a battle for donors.
So another possible contender is the former Vice President, Mike Pence. He reaffirmed to NBC News that he's going to make a decision about whether or not he's going to run sometime in the spring. Is it springtime yet?
Not yet. Just another.
Almost there.
Yep.
It certainly doesn't feel like it. But, how likely is it that he would be throwing his hat into the ring? And then, how does he stack up against the other candidates? Because I think if we had asked this question, I don't know, 7-8 months ago, we get one answer versus now. Right. It's difficult to get a sense of how the Republican voters are feeling about him.
He has, the Republican sources that I've spoken to who are close to Pence's world say that his frequent visits to these early states are an indicator that Pence is seriously considering a White House run. He's staffed up in some of these early states. He, of course, had his book that was out a few months ago that he's been pitching. But, I mean, he does have some obstacles within the Republican Party. He has consistently polled in the single digits, and he may have some, some of these obstacles in trying to finding some air within this party that right now has been so dominated by Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis. But he's got a strong name, national ID, and he has momentum. His people close to his campaign tell me, or his political operation tell me, and so I think he's someone to keep an eye on. I think a lot of people within the Republican Party and in the outside political world would love to see a debate stage where he's there with his former boss.
That would be quite a debate.
Yeah.
Right.
Finn, as you know, First Lady Jill Biden has spoken out about a potential reelection bid for her husband, the president. What more can you tell us?
Yeah, the First Lady says she is, quote, all in, but it's the president's choice. And the president himself has said that his top advisors are his close members of his family. And there's no one, of course, closer than the First Lady. The president himself has said repeatedly that he intends to run for re-election. And senior Democrats that I have spoken to just this past weekend say the expectation from within the party is that he will launch his re-election bid later this year. It could be within the next several weeks or later this spring. But if you recall, Vlad, he has this reputation, and prior to other big decisions before these launching his campaigns, where he sort of takes his time. He really has this thorough process of deciding before he launches this campaigns. But a big part of that is making sure that his family supports him. And I think that the fact that the First Lady said this is an indicator that we could see the president launching his re-election bid pretty soon.
All right, Finn Gomez, as always, my friend, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, guys.